Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Mastermind Millennial channel. My name is EJ, and today I got to talk about something that I find to be very, very tragic. This is more of a continuation of a video I did a few days ago called, I think it's called Suicide in SOCOM. SOCOM stands for Special Operations Command. It is the elite of elite military forces in America. And the issue is this. The active duty component has seen a rise in suicide. And now, guess what? Here's a line from my notes. It says, suicides continue even after troops leave service. And this has hit the veteran community very hard. So my previous video, if you have time, please watch it because it may give you context for why I'm doing this. Because the effects of war are far-reaching and continue into the veteran community once people leave war. So let me get into my notes. A recent Veteran Affairs Department report noted that from 2015 to 2016, veteran suicide rates increased 25.9%. The name of the report is this. It's called the VA, the Veteran Affairs National Suicide Data Report 2005 to 2016 from the Office of Mental Health and Suicide Prevention, dated September 2018. A very recent report that indicates suicides are on the rise, and they've jumped 25.9% from 2005 to 2016. That's a lot of deaths. Let me continue with my notes. Okay. Let's see. Now, here comes the blame game. What do I mean? Some in Congress act concerned, claiming that the Defense Department nor the Department of Affairs are devoting enough time and resources to tackle the issue. One claim is that key slots in the Defense Suicide Prevention Office have remained unfilled. So guess what they do? Guess what Congress does? A group of Democratic senators in December criticized the VA in an open letter for failing to understand its own suicide prevention programs. They wrote a letter criticizing the VA for not understanding how well their suicide prevention program was working. Alright? But this is BS to me. This is nothing more than political grandstanding. Democrats criticizing the VA for not understanding if VA programs are effective is stupid, because their criticism presupposes that they know what effective programs look like. Now, why do I call that BS? Okay? How can the Dems or Democrats judge the VA without a measure to hold them to, without a target to hold them to? Did the VA miss a deadline or fail to achieve a particular goal? Bueller? No. The VA is getting heat because it can't tell how effective one program is. Does that mean that the program is ineffective? No. What that means is when Congress asked, the VA couldn't get their stuff together to say, hey, this is what we've done. So, now if you go back, everything is 20/20 hindsight. There's a lot of information the VA provided when it was called to Congress to report, hey, this is what we are doing. But this letter is BS because it's trying to paint the VA in a bad light. But you cannot hold someone accountable if you don't have something to hold them to. Congress doesn't have a measure to hold the VA to, so all your yelling means nothing. What measures are in place to prevent suicides, or at least to help us understand the problem better? None. There aren't any. Go look in the VA. There aren't any measures or targets or indicators that they're using. I've looked it up. There's nothing there. There was a GAO report that talked about that the VA was a high-risk agency for these reasons. They are not being what's the word? What am I looking for? They're not getting to the nitty-gritty. When you have a campaign and you want to achieve something, you have a top-level goal and you have a lot of sub-goals and you have tasks. And once you start doing those things, you start to get at that big goal. But the VA hasn't set that performance indication infrastructure to get at the big thing. Okay? So this is why the GAO is criticizing the VA. And Congress can criticize the VA for not meeting... Well, no, they can't. Congress didn't assign the VA any goals. So Congress coming on the VA is just political grandstanding. We're at 5 minutes. Alright, let me keep going. I hope I'm making sense, okay? Let me just stick to my script. There is an old saying that says, what gets measured gets done, right? Throwing money at the military suicide situation is not enough, nor is it truly the answer, okay? Truly, people who are suffering need love and affection, a basic human need which is obviously not being met, okay? But our political elites are doing a half-assed job. We cannot rely on them. It's time out for Congress in getting a pass on tough issues by indiscriminately throwing money at bad situations, okay? Congress acts as some conniving mafia boss who lends you money only to squeeze more out of you later on, you know? At an outrageous rate too, you know? Or they threaten to beat you up if the money doesn't do what they thought it should do. Congress is the true American mafia. Seriously. It's like you can't touch them, and if you try to get close, they beat you up. Let me continue. Not only is Congress grandstanding, but the president gets an F for implementing his program to prevent suicides. This report that I'm talking about was released late last year, okay? And one of the things that came out of this report is that there is a lack of people available in the Veterans Department to make decisions. This is a major cause for why the VA is underutilizing $6.2 million cut. Congress was holding VA to some unknown standard and accosting them for not spending enough money. What does spending money have to do with getting to the root of the problem? The root of the problem is foolish wars. Bring our troops home. That is the root of the problem. But Congress refuses to admit that. Nobody on the House Subcommittee for the VA apologized for, yes, this problem is bad. We hold ourselves responsible and the VA, and this is what we're going to do to fix it. No one has done that. No one is taking responsibility for this. They're just pointing and blaming. And the president gets an F for not appointing people to the VA. From what I read, the Senate has approved over 700 people to fulfill these empty slots. But the president and his administration haven't done it. The president, you are failing the troops. You say you love us. Fill these jobs and hold these people accountable. And then you can fire them. But you can't fire them if you don't hire them. Now, is it fair to say Congress and the president have blood on their hands? Yes, because we're in foolish wars and we keep getting into foolish wars. And when we talk about pulling troops out, people go haywire. It's ridiculous. Time out for all of that. Bring the troops home. Let's reset, rebuild families, and move from there. Okay? Look, war is hell. I was in war, but I wasn't in a forward operating base kicking doors down. I can only imagine the trauma people have faced when they have to kill enemies on a daily basis. I don't know what that's like. I was in a skiff reading classified material hours on end, watching videos of people getting blown up. That has an effect, but I don't think it's the same effect as, you know, this infantry soldier, you know, trying to save his battle buddy on the battlefield. You know, that's neither here nor there. Let me get back to it. Look, I think Congress has no clue. And I think the president has no clue on how to deal with the suicide issue. What I do think is that they can do is stop the foolish wars, bring our troops home. They can do that, but they won't do that. And that's the part that pisses me off the most. Alright? We can't rely on Congress. We can't rely on the president. As adults, we must realize when we see people who need help. Okay? We do. Sometimes individuals know that they're going too far, but they don't know how to stop. If you love someone, you'll do the best that you can. And so I want to encourage everyone who knows someone going through a situation like this to do the best that you can. Okay, I'm checking my time. My tangents really eat up my time. Where am I going with my notes? Look, this is not a guilt trip. And I don't mean for this to be a guilt trip, but I believe that if you have sincere and unselfish desire to help someone and you do with this suicide issue, you are doing God's work. You may not like to hear that, but I think you are doing God's work. When you unselfishly meet someone's needs where they are, you're doing God's work. And kudos to you. Keep it up. Because it's not easy. But it is a labor of love. Guess what? There's a saying that says, hurt people, hurt people. But guess what? Love people, love people. If you are loved by the Almighty God, please bestow some of that love on your brothers and sisters out there. Please do it. Love is the answer. Not any kind of love. I'm not talking about any kind of love. I'm talking about spiritual, agape, unconditional, looking beyond somebody's faults and seeing their needs kind of love. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Love does not equate to millions of dollars. Doesn't do that at all, alright? So we're not going to go there. The last thing I'm going to do is going to read from the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 34 through 40, okay? And I think that this passage may help to put into context what I'm trying to say. The passage says this: For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. Naked and you put clothes on me. I was sick and you came to visit me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? And when were you thirsty and we gave you something to drink? When were you a stranger and we took you in? Or when were you naked and we gave you clothes? Or when did we see you sick or when were you in prison and we went to visit you? What are you talking about, Jesus? And he replies, it says, And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. This is what I mean about good old-fashioned unconditional love. This is the fix. This is the Mastermind Millennial channel. Until next time, be inspired.